It's Wednesday, the 24th of November. Good morning, Europe. The top stories this hour on Euronews.
Europe could see more than 2 million COVID-19 deaths by March. The World Health Organization warns, saying countries need to take action now. The investigation into the cause of Tuesday's fatal bus crash in Bulgaria gets underway as relatives of the victims begin to mourn their loss. And as political tensions with Belarus de-escalate, Europe grapples with the humanitarian crisis unfolding on the border.
COVID-19 patients being transferred from the Netherlands to Germany. It's a symbol of an epidemic that is once again out of control on the continent. Vaccination coverage is insufficient. Only 67% of the entire population of the European Union has received 2 doses of vaccine, with huge discrepancies, 86% in Portugal and barely 25% in Bulgaria. The World Health Organization is warning that the European region could hit over 2 million COVID-19 deaths by March 2022. Today, it says the COVID situation across Europe and Central Asia is very serious. There is a challenging winter ahead, but we can take decisive action to stabilize the pandemic. With almost 50,000 new cases of COVID-19 every day, Germany is one of the countries currently hardest hit by the outbreak. In several European countries, restrictions are being tightened, such as in Austria, which has re-locked down its population and made vaccinations compulsory as of February. On the plus side, there are new anti-COVID treatments which could soon be available to complement the vaccines, in particular a nasal spray or a pill from the American laboratory Merck, which is still awaiting the green light from health regulators.
Excellent.
Austria has been back in lockdown since the start of the week, with all non-essential shops closed until mid-December. And with Christmas just weeks away, the head of the country's retail association told Euronews that these latest measures will hit the economy hard.
2.7 billion euro will be lost alone with the retail shops, and in total we'll lose for the whole Austrian economy around 6 billion euro. So we estimate that about 10,000 retail stores are at insolvency risk, and moreover 10,000 jobs at risk. So we estimate that in the whole total of the Austrian economy, 400,000 employees will be put on short-term work. So it is mostly important that we know that quick help is good help, and therefore it has to be unbureaucratic and fast, that all these small and medium enterprises will still be saved, in short time.
Relatives wait for news outside a hospital in the Bulgarian capital, Sofia. A catastrophic bus crash and subsequent inferno has left little room for hope. On board were mostly tourists being brought back home to North Macedonia from a trip to Istanbul. 46 people were killed and only 7 appear to have survived.
I only know that my uncle, a 49-year-old from the village of Dolno Kolichani, is well, in stable condition. He only has some scratches on the face, but this is nothing. He's not in danger. For the others, my aunt and cousin, we don't have any definitive information. But doctors say that if they are not here, the chances are that they died at the site of the accident.
The cause of the disaster is not immediately clear. Bulgarian officials say the bus swerved off the motorway and tore a 50-metre section of the crash barrier. But it's not yet known if the bus caught fire before or after the crash. No other vehicles were involved in the accident.
We are together with our North Macedonia brothers and grieve together in this tragedy. We hope the survivors recover swiftly.
The victims have not yet been officially named, but officials said they include 12 children and many young people aged between 20 and 30. One man said he'd lost his whole family in the crash. the human cost of the migrant crisis along the Poland and Belarus border. A 37-year-old man is buried. His body was found in the local forest. It's thought he probably died of hunger and from the cold. As part of its united response to the problems on its external eastern border, the European Union is to blacklist transport operators involved in human trafficking people into the EU.
We are ready to take more sanctions against all who participate in this traffic of people, airlines, airports, travel offices, whatever. But now the problem is not, the most important problem is not the inflow. The problem is to take care of these people, we have to provide humanitarian assistance.
Meanwhile, the members of the Visegrad group have expressed solidarity with Poland, accusing Belarus of funneling migrants towards its border. But Hungary said the EU's policies are flawed.
It supports NGOs, promotes integration programs, and so on and so forth. It doesn't give you money for one thing alone, and that is the physical protection of the border. So the Hungarian position is still that the European Union must pay the cost of European border protection.
According to the Polish authorities, the situation on the ground remains tense. Large groups of migrants are making attempts to cross into Poland and continue to throw stones, injuring border guards.
Well, yesterday MEPs and Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, discussed the crisis on the border for Poland, Latvia and Lithuania against Belarusian leader Lukashenko, who, as we know, has been sending thousands of migrants to their border. Ursula von der Leyen making the point, of course, that this is a threat to European security. The response should be strong, should be swift in the form of sanctions against any companies involved. The majority of MEPs agreed that there should be a unified response, but also that the EU has an obligation to protect those migrants who are living in really difficult conditions in sub-zero temperatures, many of whom are innocent children. Today we'll have more of that when Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, the leading opposition member from Belarus, is addressing the European Parliament. She'll be speaking to journalists. She'll also be pursuing and supporting the EU's response in relation to sanctions against Lukashenko, but possibly maybe critical of Angela Merkel, who reached out to Lukashenko to try to solve this issue. She has before been critical, saying that it gave him some legitimacy. Shona Murray, Euronews, Strasbourg.
NASA is embarking on its first planetary defense mission. The US Space Agency hopes this experiment will help it find asteroids before they find us. This double asteroid redirectional test will determine if it's possible to change the course of potentially dangerous meteors.
This is the first time in history we can do something about it. We can learn how to both find those bodies and also hopefully to deflect them and kind of take them away from the danger zone of Earth.
The moonlet Dimorphos circles the asteroid Didymos. The Americans hope its spacecraft will collide and slightly alter the rock's orbit.
It is absolutely true that at this moment in time, we are not aware of a threat in 100 years. It's also true that all of the bodies that are of the size that we're going to bump into and bigger, we've only observed a third of them. And it's frankly one of our tasks to observe the other 2/3 in the next decade or so.
If the mission is successful, NASA may be able to change the course of asteroids that pose a possible threat to our planet in the future.
The EU and the UK are locked in post-Brexit talks, which, if not resolved, could lead to an all-out trade war. Caught in the middle of this struggle are Northern Irish businesses. The agricultural sector is just one of these industries which says a trade war is a lose-lose situation for all.
I don't see any winners out of a trade war. That's not saying it wouldn't happen, but take a very dim view on either side that started a trade war to try to use any industry, be it farmers or any other industry, as pawns in a bigger game. I think that would just be totally wrong. In this day and age, I don't think the public would really like it.
Britain is threatening to suspend the Northern Ireland Protocol, the part of the Brexit deal that allows Northern Ireland to stay in the EU's single market for goods. The UK says the protocol has burdened businesses with more paperwork when moving goods between Britain and Northern Ireland. Brussels said it would respond with trade sanctions if the British suspend the agreement, but for many Northern Irish businesses, the country's unique position represents a huge opportunity.
We've had regular meetings with the Canadian government, with the US government. They've said, Northern Ireland has great potential as having dual access to the EU and the UK. It'd be unique in the world for that. And that's why as the business community, we've not been saying to the government, let's scrap, the Northern Ireland Protocol, invoke Article 16. Let's reach an agreed outcome with the EU and make it work.
Northern Ireland is emerging from decades of neglect and a 30-year conflict that ended with the Good Friday Peace Agreement. The protocol is supposed to protect this by ensuring there's no hard border between the north and south of the island. However, many in the unionist community feels this new trading relationship impinges on their British identity. As a result, there's been a flare-up in sectarian tensions.
People have, taken to fairly drastic measures as a way to show their frustration and their anger at the Northern Ireland Protocol. I don't believe it's the right way to go. I think we have saw how this story ends. It doesn't end very well when you have people taking firearms back out onto the streets of Northern Ireland. We know that doesn't produce good results.
Meanwhile, the UK government is demanding the role of the European Court of Justice, the arbiter of EU law, be removed from the protocol, something that Brussels says impossible and unnecessary. Polling from Queen's University Belfast says it's not a major concern for people. But while the EU and the UK try to reconcile their differences, Northern Irish businesses will continue to trade throughout the uncertainty. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
Tech giants Amazon and Apple have been fined €200 million by Italy's antitrust watchdog. The move follows an alleged breaching of contractual obligations by the two companies that only allow select retailers to sell Apple and Beats products on Italy's Amazon site. The US companies have denied any wrongdoing and will appeal the charges. Amazon argues that it does not benefit by excluding sellers from the Italian site, while the iPhone maker says it works closely with resale partners to ensure only genuine products are sold. However, the watchdog claims the companies have broken European Union rules, which help to regulate prices for consumers. It also believes that the European Court of Justice will force the organisations to comply with competition rules.
Thousands of miners have protested outside a government building in the Bosnian capital Sarajevo. The demonstration follows government plans to restructure indebted coal mines as part of a programme to switch to renewable energy sources. But it involves job and 30% wage cuts. Employees from 7 out of 11 coal mines stopped work and took part. The man jailed for the 2007 murder of British student Meredith Kercher in central Italy has been freed early. Rudy Guede has completed 13 years of a 16-year sentence. Kercher's American flatmate Amanda Knox and her Italian boyfriend were also initially convicted, but were eventually acquitted on appeal. All three have denied killing Kercher. The suspect in the Wisconsin parade crash, Darrell Brooks, will now face 6 charges of first-degree intentional homicide. An 8-year-old boy has become the latest person to die as a result of being hit by an SUV at full speed at the Christmas parade. The charges carry a mandatory life sentence if convicted. Bail was set at $5 million and a preliminary hearing is scheduled for January.
Colombia, Dr. Juan Manuel Santos Calderón.
Carlos Antonio Lozada is now a senator and we are so sweet, but 5 years ago he was a FARC commander.
Y ese día justo di yo mi primera entrevista en la vida.
In 2016, Lozada signed the peace pact between the guerrillas and the Colombian state. He criticizes the current government for breaches of the agreements, but praises the process.
No solamente logramos detener una
We not only managed to stop a war of more than 50 years, but we also left in that text in some way a roadmap of what the process of transit of Colombia should be after the war towards a different society.
Sociedad distinta.
But the agreement only partly ended the bloodshed. With a range of causes and sources, the aftershocks of the decades-old conflict rumble on, fueled by dissident violence and Colombia's perennial drugs trade. More than 1,500 people have been killed since the accord was signed. Lozada says it's the effect of a deficient execution of the peace pact.
By not implementing, by not handing over the land to those who need to work it, the state continues to leave the power of the state in the territories in the hands of political and economic groups, which are also connected with illegal economies.
A few meters from the Congress is the government palace. Juan Camilo Restrepo is the High Commissioner for Peace. He highlights the progress of the state and rejects accusations of non-compliance.
95% of the ex-combatants today from this process have full social security. So the best way to answer a critical voice is with facts and results. But to enter into a debate of a political nature with peace, you cannot do politics.
But he also has a message for the neighboring country, Venezuela, noted for giving refuge to dissident FARC leaders.
In Venezuela there is a dictatorship, and the second thing is that the dictatorship stops harboring people who are part of organized armed groups.
The country celebrates 5 years of an incomplete peace. Colombia has still many challenges to face in the coming years. The influence of the FARC dissidents, the ELN guerrilla, and the paramilitary continues in some of the red zones of the country. The conflict leaves every year thousands of refugees. The violence is spread by Colombia's perennial problem, drug trafficking. Héctor Estepa from Bogotá for Euronews.
That's it for now, but do stay with us as we bring you all the latest from across Europe and beyond. You can also find more on our website, euronews.com.